Shifting gears, he's got a new book out. He's launched his own TV channel on mainline television in England. Truth is Rising. David Icke of davidicke.com joins us. Always thought-provoking. So much of what he said 20 years ago that I certainly laughed at, unfortunately turned out to be true. He exposed people to the BBC that he said were having necrophilic sex with children they'd murdered and everything else, and it all came out a decade after he named names. I mean, it is unbelievable. And I just bite my tongue hoping that, you know, the rest of it doesn't turn out to be true. I'm just pinching myself. But David Icke joins us, one of the most controversial guests you can have on, and we're always honored to have him. I've had a chance to hang out with him over the years, get to know him. Just a really real guy. People ask, is David Icke for real? Yes, he's for real. Is he right about everything? I don't think any of us are right about everything because we see through rose-colored glasses, you know, the distortion of our senses in the time-space continuum. But so much is happening. The Great Awakening is happening that he said 20 years ago he thought would begin around 2014 through 2016, 2017. And it's evil's rising, but for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So much is going on. The global collapse is being engineered as the New World Order poses the saviors. They're all over the news, adding deadly chemicals to everything on purpose to brain damage us. Their own documents are public by the White House science czar, John P. Holdren, in his own book, Eco-Science. DNA results for the Nephilim skulls. Mainstream news, they've tested those weird Peruvian skulls and say it's a new form of humans. I mean, this is all just getting insane. And more is going to happen. More and more is going to be revealed. And people are going to get deeper into the matrix and lies and false reality at the same time as others become more awakened. I agree with David Icke on that. So, David, give us the big picture of where you think we are, what you think the top stories are right now, and what you think is coming. And then we'll cover the waterfront with a whole bunch of news. David, thanks for coming on with us.
No problem, mate. Hey, it's been a while, isn't it? Bilderberg, wasn't it? In Watford the last time we met. And first of all, congratulations. It's a big 4-0, eh?
That's right. I'm 40 today. It's strange you're on my birthday, David. Thanks for coming on.
There you go. Well, I'm 62, so you know, you're a whippersnapper, mate. Long time ago, yeah. I think, you know, we are reaching the point now. We've reached the point where so many strands of this are coming together. And if you connect the dots between the strands, it's challenging us to open our minds to things that we would have dismissed by reflex action not so long ago. I've been saying for 2 decades that the rabbit hole is so deep that if we're only looking at things like banking scams and engineered wars and engineered terrorist attacks, etc., which is very, very important to expose, but we're still walking around the edge of the rabbit hole. This is so deep. And we have to, I would suggest, open our minds to the fact that there are forces at work in the unseen, which Christians call demons, which Islamic believers call jinn, which other people call archons, other people call flyers in Central America, the shaman. There is an unseen force manipulating this. And the idea is to put humans into such a low state of consciousness and awareness that the manipulating force becomes the one-eyed man in the land of the blind.
So they basically want us to be robots. David, I love seeing your huge newsroom back there, but unfortunately your omnidirectional mic is picking up everything they're saying. I want to hear what you have to say. Can somebody shut that door?
I'll do that.
Thanks a lot, brother. All right, good. I do like the shot, though, but it seemed when we went on air, the noise volume went up. So yeah. It looks like you got a anthill of liberty lovers in there running around getting stuff done. Please continue, David. So they want to turn us into robots, basically. Yeah,
and go ahead. They want to put us in a smaller perception bubble than the manipulating forces in. Like I say, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And you know, in terms of things going on now, fundamental to pushing that further on is transhumanism. The idea is to sell us the belief that we can be enhanced by technological additions to the body. And this, Alex, we've talked about this over the years. this is bringing to light what I've said about the human body all these years, that it's a biological computer. And because it's a biological computer, it can be connected and can interact with other forms of computer software, i.e. technological computers. You see, what you've got, there was a story this week in Britain about the invention of an artificial hand, which for the first time gave the person the ability to feel things, to feel texture, to feel the softness of something that had never been done before. They could move it and pick things up before, but they could never feel things. And it's a real simple process in theme. There are electrical signals passing around the brain, and there are electrical signals that pass around the technology.
It's electrochemical, and the brain has no firewall.
Basically, what they're doing is making those two forms of energetic information talk to each other. And so the hand talks to the brain that way, and therefore the brain can decode the feeling of texture and touch. So what we're looking at then with transhumanism is putting in various technological bits of kit and stuff and connected it to the human body, the biological computer. And it's being sold, like I say, as a great step forward to beyond human, the amazing things that humans can do. That's the sell. Because whenever you are selling something, whatever it is, the mobile phone technology connected to the smart meter technology, connected to the smart television technology, whenever you are selling something that's real bad for the target population, you have to sell it as a benefit. Otherwise, people are going, we're not having that. You've got to sell.
Oh, Virgin Atlantic has Google glasses. Oh, my refrigerator talks to my smart meter. Oh, it's all so wonderful. This is
the thing. And so what the real agenda is not enhancing human beings. They don't want greater potential for human beings. They want to suppress human beings. It's to create a situation where the technology is talking to the brain and telling the brain what to think and what...
And they sell it as enhancement. It's not that the technology itself would be bad. It's that the people running it, deploying it, rolling it out have made it a Trojan horse openly to dehumanize us.
Yeah, that's why, my new book's called The Perception Deception, because that's what it all is. We can talk about conspiracies involving banking and all these other things that we talk about, quite rightly. But you take this whole conspiracy, Alex, down to its base.
It is the Matrix. Stay there. I want to come back and talk about the book and what's at the bottom of the rabbit hole here with this whole perception deception. And that's it. They're trying to insert us into a false system. We'll be right back. And David Icke always talked about the emergence point when the agenda gets too big and too open to deny. They go, oh, it is real, and if you don't like it, you're a terrorist. There is a world government. There is global taxes. We are going to put chips in your brain. And if you don't take them, you'll be like a bug we're going to step on, a.k.a. Ray Kurzweil. And then you see doctors saying under 2-year-olds should not have any screen time. It's brain damaging them. It's lowering IQ. Language is shrinking. Parents unaware of dangers faced by children on smartphones. BBC. This is the reality, ladies and gentlemen. And the drugging of the public and the chemicals, it's an undoubted, aggressive, evil, criminal agenda. And David Icke joins us. He was getting to the key point there. And he's been talking about this 20 years, folks, saying they wanted to hack the brain, create a false neural system, take over. Now, people say, well, he says it's entities in another dimension doing this. That sounds crazy. What does every culture say? Regardless of whether those entities are real or not, or that's some archetypal manifestation through people. I've been to Bohemian Grove. I've covered Skull and Bones. I know elitist. I grew up in the richest county in Texas where all the rich people were basically devil worshippers. We had to leave the town because of it. Okay? I mean, it was unbelievable. The stuff they tried to induct me into. I've seen stuff by the time I was 14 that most people never even imagined. And I can see it was all part of my life, part of a journey to know this stuff's real. The police stealing drugs, you name it. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. I'm ranting, David. It's just that regardless, the elites do believe they're getting power from these entities. Go ahead.
Well, they are. I mean, they're sick. And in terms of wisdom, they are without wisdom because cleverness and wisdom are not the same thing. Cleverness is a very much lower level of ability, of intelligence. But they're not in that cleverness area. They're not stupid in that sense. So they're not going to be all these centuries and right to the present day. They're not going to be worshiping something that is not there. But the whole point of which pulls all the strands together is the perception deception, because that is the crucial foundation. If you've got a target population of billions and you are, compared with that, a tiny cabal, and the core of it hidden in the shadows, then you can't control that population physically in total. You can start to get there the more that you bring the population under mental control through drugs and various other means, like the transhumanist technology will come to. But we're not quite there yet. We're not there yet. So they still have a situation where they have to control a target population. And the only way you can do it is by manipulating their perception of self, of the world, of world events, of authority, so that that perception will suit your agenda for global control. And from perception comes what? Behavior and response, or in this world we live in, lack of response to what is going on. So you look at the education system, Alex, from this perspective, and it's a crucial part of the perception deception, because, you know, you've got children increasingly from the earliest ages. I mean, you come out of the womb, Alex, and within, what, 3 years now, suddenly you're in a school, which are nothing more than prisons now, and you're having an authority figure telling you what's right, what's wrong, what's possible and impossible, what you can do, what you can't do, when you can go, when you can't go. And more power is being given to school authorities and taken away from parents. And that's a massive perception deception element, because you then have control at least 5 days a week of that child and young person and students' information that they receive, basically. And what you're doing through a rigged curriculum with rigged versions of everything is that you are programming them to see themselves and the world and authority in the way that suits you. All this stuff now with the cameras, with the technology to get your dinner, you have to give a fingerprint technology, all these things, all police in schools, for goodness sake.
Stay there. 18-minute segment coming up, David. I'm going to come right back to you out of break. David Icke, davidicke.com. I want to read his new book, because this is it. This is a war against reality, a war against consciousness, a war against free will, a war on perception to insert us in an artificial habitat kill grid. All right, listen, I'm going to give you the floor, or I'm going to keep jumping in here. David Icke, you were getting into the suppression of human consciousness. The fact is they want to, IQs are going down from the fluoride, Harvard study. We know they want to suppress us. They teach Common Core. You were talking about the state all over the world saying your kids belong to us, 2 + 2 = 5. They literally are like O'Brien in 1984 in the United States with Common Core, 2 + 2 = 5. A huge crime against the children, screwing up their brains. What is at the bottom of the rabbit hole?
Well, like I was saying before the break, the education system is crucial to the perception deception, because you have young minds who can be molded day after day after day after day. And one of the great testaments to human consciousness in its greater form is the number of young people who've been through that system. So many have, and it's got them. But there's so many young people that have been through that system and have still seen the truth of what's going on. So that's incredibly encouraging. So you've got education. Well, what passes for it? I mean, Gandhi once said, or was asked what he thought of Western civilization, and he said, I think it would be a very good idea, and I think education would be a very good idea. That's not what we've got. It's a programming operation to turn young minds into little more than software programs that respond in the desired way to inputted data, i.e. situations that they face. But then going alongside that, the education system, parallel with it, of course, is the mainstream media, which you and I have been challenging for a long time. And the mainstream media is constantly supporting the version of self, the version of reality, the version of the world that education is pumping out. So now there are, if you like, stereo versions of this programming, which young people are receiving, and indeed people in general in terms of the media are receiving all the time. And that is constantly telling them a version of events which simply isn't true. But if people buy it, their responses and their behavior will walk straight into the hands of the agenda for global control. So the media is doing that. Then you have, and you've mentioned one or two things, then you have the toxic assault on the human brain and the human genetic structure, most notably through genetically modified food, which is there simply to genetically modify us. Then you have things like growth hormones, which are given to cattle, which then cross over to humans. And so you have this big epidemic for that and other reasons of obesity, which again is taking people into a world that their bodies weren't meant to go into. I mean, just look back a few decades to see what it was like before. And then you've got the aspartame, then you've got the fluoride in the water, which are both brain suppressants and brain rewirers. And you put all this together, plus pharmaceutical drugs, plus the vaccines that are not only deluging the human immune system in young children before it's even formed, it's also affecting people mentally and emotionally. That toxic the cocktail that we call vaccines. So you put all this together, and there's absolutely a war from multiple levels on human perception. And there's another one, and that is, you know, in the last 50 years, the radiation in our atmosphere at the level that we play out our lives has increased by millions of times. Some open-minded scientists have called it an experiment on human life without knowing the outcome. But the people in the core, in the shadows from which it is coming, they do know the outcome. And part of that outcome is to, and this is where we come into transhumanism, this is where we come into the internet to a large extent, plus additions to the internet that are planned and indeed are now being talked about. I'll get to one of them in a second. Because the human brainwave activity operates at a certain frequency band. If you can access that frequency band with information delivered electromagnetically and electrically, then you are putting thoughts and perceptions and beliefs, perceptions of reality into that system, and the person is having thoughts and feelings and coming to conclusions that they think that are their own conclusions, but they're not. And anything that's got smart in front of it is part of that grid. Smart televisions, which can look at you, smart phones, smart meters, smart grids. This is all part of it. And the idea is, I've been writing about this for years.
Smart growth.
Smart growth, smart cities, smart everything. Smart cars, they're calling
intelligent highways.
Yeah. So what's and of course the word smart is to give the underlying subconscious as well as conscious impression that this is the smart thing to do. This is the intelligent way to do it. There are benefits in this for you, and there are not benefits for you. There is just control and suppression of your perception of reality and perception of the world. So you've got this, and for me, I've been writing about this for years. You know, the internet has fantastic benefits for getting this information out. I mean, you, me, and people like us would never have got the information out that we have to the number of people we have without the internet. But again, if you're going to sell a prison, then you've got to sell it as a beneficial thing. And up to this point, it has been. But as you know, and people following the story know, the idea is, and it's already unfolding in many, many different facets and faces, it's to take away the things that are beneficial for the internet, for people, the free flow of information.
That's right. They let it be free for a while, like a highway paid for by everybody's tax money. Then they hand it over to a toll road company. They're already starting with unified agenda worldwide to phase out the freedom.
Exactly. And so what's left when they do that, if we allow it, is the beneficial part of the internet for them. And that is as a massive mind programming, perception programming operation.
Spy grid.
Because for me, I mean, like I said, I've been saying this for years. What the internet is designed to be is an electronic collective mind for humanity. And this is where the transhumanism comes in, because the idea of putting chips into people and other pieces of kit that connect us to the internet, and of course Google at the forefront of all this stuff. Google's just the smiling face of DARPA at that level, the technological development arm of the Pentagon. That's why you have people like Regina Duggan, director of DARPA, moving to become an executive of Google. It's not brain science why that happened. They're expressions of each other. And so the idea is to connect us to the internet technologically, so the internet becomes our collective mind.
And let me throw this in. They're on record poisoning the environment and wrecking our genetics, so that we've got to merge with the machines and the new medical systems just to survive the total form of true enslavement. And then they're there posing as the saviors when they've created the problem. Somebody's got to do something about it, and then they're there to give the solution.
Yeah, problem, reaction, solution. This was in the British press this week, Alex. Headline, forget the internet, soon there will be the outernet. Company plans to beam free Wi-Fi to every person on Earth from space, was in the London Daily Mail. They're quoting an organization called Media Development Investment Fund in the United States, which is among its funders are the Open Society Foundations of George Soros. You know that man that has...
Oh, he likes us.
And what they're saying is they want to beam it from space, because they care about freedom of expression, you see, so they want to get over the restrictions in China and all this. They're such nice people. And give us internet.
They want to beam it into Russia, overthrow that, exactly.
Yeah. Now, what this is, I would suggest, and there'll be other things too, is another layer on, because when I talk about the internet, what I'm also talking about is the lower levels of the Earth's atmosphere where we interact and live our lives. They want to fill that with so much electromagnetic information broadcasting within the human brainwave and genetic frequency that we are bombarded with basically a
frequency pollution, a jamming signal.
24/7 programming system. This is what smart meters are about. What are they doing? They're creating a Wi-Fi radiation field, yet another one. That's very kind, very sensible, thank you. Within every home and business, that's the idea with the smart grids. And you know, people have said, and rightly too, that what they're doing is being able to see when you open your fridge, how many people's in your house, what room they're in, what you're doing. Yes. But, you know, as they say on a motorbike, the throttle goes both ways. Well, so does the Wi-Fi. You can get information from a location, and you can pick up that.
No, that's on record. And let me expand on this. When I go to Big Bend, where I'd love to go live, but it's in the middle of nowhere, you know, down in South West Texas on the Mexican border, and there's nothing on that side of Mexico either. Your cell phones don't work. Literally, even though I'm at 9,000 feet or whatever, I feel 20 years younger. It's like heaven because there's no Wi-Fi. But now it's not going to matter. They're launching blimps and satellites that are going to blast everything. And there's all these people moving to the countrysides in Europe and worldwide, as you know, to get away from frequency pollution. Sorry, you're not going to get away from it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is what our point I'll come to in a second about trying to run away. You're not trying to run away. We've got to run straight at these people, because if you're trying to run away, you'll run away for a while, and then it'll catch you up. I mean, we've got to deal with it, for goodness sake. Don't run away from it. And so what is happening is that with the smart meters, that's another electromagnetic field, which is not only taking information from your home and business and delivering that to a central point. Information's coming the other way within the frequency of human brainwave activity, so it can feed you impressions, it can feed you perceptions, it can feed you thoughts and beliefs. That's the idea. And what Hollywood is doing, I mean, what are we talking about? A perception deception. Hollywood, my goodness, it's one of the great vehicles for it. You know, I've been 50-odd countries, everywhere you go.
That's where I wanted to go next, though. I want to stop you right there, because I only got like 15 minutes, or 5 minutes of the next hour with you, max. DavidIcke.com joining us right now. Again, I'm Alex Jones, if you just tuned in. David, you know a lot of famous people. I know a lot of famous people. Most of them do not have the courage to go public. I mean, most big Hollywood stars, A-list, most big producers I know, 95% of them won't come on air. But a lot of them have come on air. And in Hollywood, it's not liberal or conservative. They're listening to you. They're listening to me. They're all awake. They hate the old shadowy producers, Sumner Redstone and others that won't let them tell the truth. There's a revolution going on in Hollywood, and I see it in the new Lego movie, in the new Nut Job movie, anti-establishment, how they want to program us. And that's not propaganda. There's a war going on even in Hollywood. I mean, take Alice Walker of The Color Purple and all her big topics. Who's a listener of you, a listener of me. She promotes us, gets attacked. My point is that we're going to skip this network break, folks. We're going to skip another break. This is so important. David Icke, I'm saying we are on the edge of winning, because this isn't fake. Almost everyone in Hollywood, I've now learned, is a listener of this show, and they talk about you as well. And I'm not on a power trip over that. This is the main enemy brainwashing base, and we, by the grace of the Creator and human consciousness and everything, and our listeners, we've not infiltrated them. They are in the programming system. They know the truth better than us. They're absolutely freaking out. The military's waking up because they're decompartmentalized with our information. This is incredible. So what do you want to say about that? Because I want to be clear, Hollywood is on the verge of a huge awakening and a revolution against the old guys that control it. David Icke.
Well, just take Hollywood, take any aspect of this global spider's web, and Hollywood will fit the blueprint. You've got a very few people that call the shots, and you've got everyone else that dance to the shots that are called. What has happened, thanks to the internet up to this point, and books and many other, vehicles, is that, yes, the compartmentalized structure is being decompartmentalized. Because before, there was no way that those in the compartmentalized structure could get access to information that only those they knew. So they were always in the dark. They were always a piece in a puzzle they didn't understand. They didn't realize there was a puzzle. They just knew their little piece, and they thought that was it. What has happened, because this information has circulated and circulated and circulated, and my goodness me, the number of people that are interested in it now is phenomenal compared with just a few years ago even. Those compartments are breaking down because people lower down in the structure are going, hold on a second, when they hear this information, that makes sense of what I'm doing every day. That makes sense of why I was asked to do this movie and do this scene and read this script. But what I would say, Alex, is yes, people are waking up, but, we can't just hold it at a point where we're waking up while still standing on the other side of the street, knowing more about what's happening and watching it with more understanding of the unfolding.
Yeah, it's kind of like being conscious while you're being roasted. It's almost worse if you don't reverse it.
We've got to cross the street and engage this, right? And there has to be a revolution of the many to refuse to acquiesce to the impositions of the few. And because, those people, I'll say to those people in Hollywood that are well off and have lots and lots of money, but are not part of this whole thing. They may be caught in it, but they're not part of it. I would say this to people in America and around the world, or at the moment, think that they're okay and they're well off or comfortable, and it doesn't really affect them. Well, hold on. There are people now in tent cities in America and homeless in the streets in places like Britain who not long ago considered themselves to be middle class and had a nice house and a big mortgage which they could at that time pay. It turns very quickly because where we're heading is what I call the Hunger Games society. And it's real simple. And my goodness me, can you not see it now? It's for less than 1% to control all wealth, land, water, food production, all of it, to have then a strata of uniformed programs, software programs called the police state, with no ability to process information, just to respond to orders. Psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, we're seeing them being recruited on a personality basis rather than an ability basis all the time. And under that is planned to be everyone else in a slave masses with a massive culling as well, which are subordinate. And those slaves will be subject to microchips and other forms of
forced inoculations. It's already happening. 200 square foot coffin apartments.
This is the point, Alex. When you realize and you know what's happening and you know where it's going, you read the world like an open book. This stuff now, you see these things where you swallow pills and have an edible microchip.
We told people that was coming. Yep.
Which then tell your mobile phone or your doctor's mobile phone when your next dose is due and if you've had it or not. That's all part of this process of forced drugging that this slave...
and they start it when you get allergy medicine over the counter now, swiping your card and telling you the state police are watching you. That's what the smart dust is about, the RFID, in their own words, a total enslavement grid. How do you think the fight against the spiders is going? How is the fight against the technocrats going?
Well, what I would say to everybody in Hollywood or elsewhere, we now have reached the point that pussyfooting around and doing a little bit and keeping your head down, I watch the Alex Jones show and read that David Icke's books, but I can't say anything because what about my career? Those days, ladies and gentlemen, are over if you have any desire to live in a world that even has a modicum of freedom. There's no more time for messing around and having it an add-on to your life. This is a time to stand up and be counted, to come out the big Hollywood names that are hiding in the shadows at the moment because they fear the consequences. I tell you what, the consequences of not dealing with this now are going to be far, far worse than...
exactly.
Or not doing it, the consequences...
Well, David, people tell me all the time, they go, thank you for your courage. I would have to have blind, crazy courage to not fight this. I'm fighting it because I know how horrible it is where they're taking us, just like you said. Wait, I'm not doing this because I have courage. I'm doing this because I want to survive and have consciousness and freedom and free will for myself and humanity. I hate bondage. I hate these psychopaths that, you know, the whole royal group that you expose, it's all come out, and the dead bodies and the little kids and the BBC pedophile rings. I mean, my God, it isn't courage fighting these people. My very instinct says we need to absolutely rout them.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, let's look at it. There was a point some time ago where this control grid was not what it is. The manipulation of perception was not as ingrained as it is becoming among large numbers of people who are not waking up. So as this moves on, more and more people who are not waking up become more and more programmed, more and more incapable of free thought and ever seeing what it is. So we can't wait until, because what happens, and I've talked about this before, is they push the gate. In other words, they'll push the agenda on. And if they don't meet resistance, then they'll walk through the gate to the next gate. And then this is how it moves on. So we have to, when are we going to draw a line in the sand? When are people, just use this analogy for now, but an analogy for humanity. When are the people in Hollywood that understand some of what's going on, and indeed some of them a lot of what's going on, how long are you going to stay silent? Well, until there's a knock on the door? I mean, there won't be anyone around then. Come on, we have to get on with it now. And never, never, in my 25 years nearly of doing this, never have there been more open minds to seeing this. People are opening their minds now to things they would have laughed and dismissed by reflex action before. This is a fantastic opportunity we're facing now. There was always a time when this was going to break the surface.
And we're here. We're alive now. David, do 5 more minutes with us. I know you got to go. I want you to tell us about your book and the TV network when we come back. Well, the new book's available now, The Perception Deception. I definitely want to read it. David Icke is on target as usual. David, we only got 5 minutes left. I want to give you the floor here to talk about where you see this going and to talk about the TV network. You've been in the arena launching so far successfully. But just briefly, getting into this, they know as the social engineers that we would respond like this. But so much of what they're doing is backfiring. I've learned that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. They're not invincible. They know how to manipulate, but they don't have any heart, any guts, anything, because it is very unhuman what the establishment does. So how are they going to counter the breakaway where people either become zombies or other people under attack, I find, are even becoming more enlightened as a spiritual but also genetic resistance. You could almost call it good mutations spiritually, to use a strange term that I'm coining, that will actually cause humanity to hammer back.
Well, to understand what's happening and how we're manipulated, we really do actually have a greater grasp of the nature of reality. And the body is a holographic projection of the true self, which is just consciousness, awareness. And if you get pulled, we see everything's about a point of attention. Your point of attention can be that wide, or it can be infinite. And if it's infinite, that point of attention is going to see everything from a massive, symbolically, it's going to see it from the top of the mountain, top of the hill. If your point of attention is pulled only into the 5 senses, you're only going to see the world that the 5 senses can decode and you can perceive, which is tiny. And so this whole idea of manipulating human perception is to pull our point of attention into the 5 senses. Can I see it, touch it, taste it, hear it? Okay, it must exist then. And transhumanism is taking that another step further, because it's putting your point of attention even deeper into the non-expanded consciousness level of self and into the senses, into the technological senses in terms of transhumanism. That's what it's all about. And this kind of radiation, massive radiation field broadcasting within the human brainwave frequency is designed again to hold us in the 5 senses. Once you open your mind to your true self, consciousness, and start to think for yourself and not be aware of the way that we are programmed to respond and programmed to perceive, suddenly the world is not little dots that aren't connected. The world is a tapestry that is so blatant.
And then you don't care about the system's world anymore. You see what a fraudulent, ugly mess it is, and then you're free from them, and then they can't be your masters. David, in closing, tell us about the book and tell us about the TV venture you've been launching.
Well, first of all, the book's The Perception Deception. It's nearly 1,000 pages. It's got 900 illustrations and images and 32 pages of original color art. And I'm coming up to my 62nd birthday, and I tell you, I have never done anything as important in my life.
This is your masterwork?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't be happier with it, and it's between 2 covers. It pulls it together, and it goes so deep in the rabbit hole. But it's not 1,000 pages. Oh my goodness, no! It's a story. has a beginning, a middle, and an end, as well as massive amount of information. The People's Voice, the television network, which is global on the internet 24/7, I had the idea for that last May, and we got it to air on the 25th of November. It's not my television station. I was just a co-founder of it. This is just a vehicle to get this information out 24/7.
Absolutely.
Across the whole spectrum of subjects, everything from the conspiracy that we perceive in the daily events to the nature of reality, all these things.
It's the Decoding Centered in Power Free Humanity. David Icke, thank you so much for the time. Look forward to talking to you again. And I'm coming to England to speak at Oxford soon, so hopefully we can hook up then. Maybe I can come in and be a guest on your system.
Yeah, we'd like that, because we got to work together.
We do. We're working together. You're awesome, David. Godspeed. All right, folks, we're coming back. Thank you.